For the top of the hour. Yesterday, the Kenyan Supreme Court took a decision to uphold the victory of President Uhuru Kenyatta in last month's controversial rerun of the presidential election, clearing the way for the 55-year-old leader to be sworn in for a second and final term next week. Now, the same court overturned Kenyatta's victory in an August poll, citing irregularities and mismanagement by the Electoral Commission. And in Zimbabwe, ZANU-PF instructed its chief whip to start an impeachment process against President Robert Mugabe after he missed the deadline to resign yesterday at noon. For some analysis on these developments, we're joined in studio by political and economic analyst Dr Peter Karungu. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's been a while. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Wow, it's been a fiery week for the African continent. Let's start off with Kenya first. So the decision to uphold the election results despite controversy, do you think this is a good decision?
I think given the political impasse that we have witnessed for the last 3 months, it was in the interest of the country, A, to find a way to move on, and 2, to find, in my view, a system in which they could negotiate in the absence of having a head of state in any country.
Dr Karungu, I'm going to have to interrupt you because I think there's a problem with your mic. We're just going to get our floor manager to come in very quickly and sort that out for us. But we're talking here on the programme about the issues that are happening in Kenya, and this, of course, the decision to uphold those election results. You know, a lot of publications are quoting, saying that literally the ruling is unlikely to end what has been described as the worst political crisis in a decade in Kenya. And this, of course, is East Africa's richest and most developed economy, which has seen more than 60 people killed in political violence in 3 months. That's the story for Kenya at the moment. Sorry about that, Dr. Karungu, but I think you're back on. I think we can hear you now. Let's start with that question once again. I mean, is it a good decision, what we've seen coming out of Kenya?
I think looking at what the country had endured for the last 3-4 months, it was inevitable they have to find a way forward. One of the ways to do is literally not to have a vacuum and have a head of state and probably set the system for the parties to start negotiation. It is in the interest of the continent to understand that 51 take-all is not working very well. And I think it is important to underscore the necessity of systems to start saying, if we go 51 take-all, would it work for the bigger picture in the country? That's number one. The second aspect is that you can imagine a country with a projected economic growth rate of 5.7, it is literally heading to 4 within a very short period. So you can't afford to get to a country to a position in which people are starting to feel the pinch of unemployment. The economic activities have gone to zero because of 2 political powers disagreeing on the way forward.
Yeah, I mean, we look at their economy, however, in Kenya. Despite the political instability, it still is doing well. How is something like this possible?
I think that's a good point to put together. And I looked at the history of that country. In 2002, when we had a one-party system and a very dictatorial, the GDP was 13 billion, 1-3. Within the last 15 years, the GDP is over 70 billion. So we don't understand how the country can weather the storm, but it has the potential. It is literally the engine of economic activity in the region. So it has, if it's not doing very well, it trickles down among the member states, and therefore it's not necessary to have the impasse.
Just finally on Kenya, I know there's a lot to talk about, but I want to touch on Zimbabwe while I've got you here as well. The political instability, it is a big problem. And also, I mean, what we're hearing is 2 people were shot dead yesterday during confrontations between the police and supporters of the opposition. With these 2 opposition party supporters being shot dead for disagreeing with the decision, is there any likely political stability in the pipeline for this country?
I think so. I think we are seeing a president who is barely 55, and this is his 2nd term.
Yeah.
His legacy will be determined by how much he brings on board as many parties as possible. And remember, like I said, if you look at the political climate today, it's basically because the country is polarized in a tribal term. And we cannot afford to see some members of the tribe who, even though they don't comprise 50+1 or 51%, being marginalized. But the need is not to go out and kind of cause chaos, but is to sit down and negotiate. They negotiated with the days of independence. Why can't young people out of the country negotiate in terms of what is in the best interest of the country?
Yeah. Let's talk Zimbabwe now, just for a minute or two. What are your views in Zimbabwe? Where we're going now, is this the start of a turnaround for the country, or how are you feeling? Let me ask you that.
I think when I read about Zimbabwe, I look at what Zimbabwe was in 1989, 1990. There are two statistics that I kept on reading when I was studying. And the fact is, it had the best per capita surplus, second to Taiwan and Singapore. Yeah. It still has one of the most literate group in the world.
Yes.
It still has some of the most analytical students across the African continent. It still has over 88% literacy level at a global level. So the potential of that country is amazing. It does have the potential to literally become the bread basket for the continent. There's so much positive in that country. However, what have we seen the last 15, 20 years? We have seen a perpetual decline in every statistics I gave you, including life expectancy. So what we are saying is there needs to be an understanding across the whole country that is in the interest of everybody else, and particularly the youth Zimbabweans who are all over the world, to be able to be given a chance to rebuild the country with the potential to be one of the biggest economies in Africa.
Yeah, what a beautiful message there, and let's hope that what you're predicting is going to come true. I think it's just to get that stability. Political stability is of utmost importance in there, and we'll see what happens today after the meeting is being called by the President of Zimbabwe, which is still Robert Mugabe, and he, of course, has called for that cabinet meeting, and those that have decided to go, if they do in fact go, they're immediately going to be dismissed. So it's a bit of a difficult situation politically, but let's hope we'll see some stability coming out of it today. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Most welcome.
Always a pleasure having you in studio, Dr. Peter Karungu, political and economic analyst. We'll see you after this.